On this week's show, Extra Life results, a lot of releases, and Master of Stories toy box designer Quinn Johnson. All this and more on episode 64 of the Inside Infinity podcast.
What's up, guys? This is John Vignacchi, executive producer on Disney Infinity, and you are listening to Inside Infinity, the first official Disney Infinity podcast on the net.
Inside Infinity is brought to you with support from Eveloss Customs. Eveloss.com is your #1 place for custom Disney Infinity figures. His latest edition includes an awesome Hulk figure. Head over to Eveloss.com to find out more. Hello everyone, welcome to Inside Infinity, episode number 64, recorded November 4th, 2014. Coming back from a couple week break, glad to be back. I am one of your hosts, Will Kelly, and with me as always, my favorite Australian, Jason Haynes.
G'day Will, g'day listeners, g'day guest, I won't name until he's properly introduced.
I love your subdued g'days. It's just like you're always so excited.
I'll tell you, I say g'day naturally. I don't know how many times I have to tell you that. It's not an act.
It's true. It's true. It's my fault. And that laughter in the background is none other than Toy Box community designer / mentor, Quinn Johnson. Quinn, how are you doing tonight?
Fantastic.
Yeah. Welcome to the show. This has kind of been a long time coming, and really excited to have you on the show. A couple weeks ago, we got to speak with Patrick and Tyler, and now we have you. So, I've been told that you are like the master of stories. Is that correct?
I hope so. I try to be.
Yeah. So, can you just give us a little bit of an introduction about yourself? And I know you're working at Avalanche Software, but you also have some other stuff that you're doing on the side. So can you tell us just a little bit of introduction about you and kind of what you're doing?
Yeah. So I'm from Utah, pretty much. I was born in Idaho, lived in Utah, lived in Georgia for a few years. And I always wanted to do, even since I was a little kid, I wanted to do comic books. So, super short version of everything is I just drew and wrote like crazy my whole life. Went to art school in Savannah, Georgia, the Savannah College of Art and Design, where I studied sequential art, which is comic book storytelling, essentially, with concept design, writing, a bunch of other stuff wrapped into that. So I've been a freelance comic book writer for the last several years, just writing here and there. My big break was writing an issue of the Tales of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comic book, which was a dream come true for me. I'm a huge Turtles fan, and then I've written for the comic books for Kung Fu Panda, Megamind, Richie Rich, a few other ones. So it's pretty cool. And then just about 6 months ago, I got put on the Toy Box community mentor team, which is a dream come true because I've always loved video games. I've always been a huge video game gamer, and so this is like the perfect marriage of everything I'm passionate about with video games, with creativity, with art, with writing, and then I'm kind of the quote unquote story guy on the team. So I help come up with a lot of the for the levels that we create that have storylines. I help come up with a bunch of the plot as well as the in game dialogue to kind of and make sure the whole thing flows well. So that's pretty much me.
That's awesome. I can't wait to talk to you about some of the stuff you've done. I know some of your toy boxes, and I know it's a team effort, but some of the pieces that you are pretty responsible for are some of our favorites. So I can't wait to talk to you about that. So we were talking before the show, and you were telling me about this. So this is one of your websites, so runestonecomic.com, and so this is a comic that is your comic, right? More or less.
Yeah. Yep. It's Elders of the Runestone, and it's been my baby ever since I was in 9th grade. It was a story that I'm really passionate about, and about these 5 kids in high school that end up getting superhuman abilities. So it's, tons of action, tons of character drama, martial arts, horror, pretty much everything I've ever wanted in a comic book. And I just really love the characters, and so this has been the project that I've worked on for a long time. My co-creator and partner on the whole thing is Robert Atkins, who is an amazing comic book artist who's worked on X-Men, Spider-Man, Batman. He's worked on pretty much all the big books, and so we work on that together. We also have a few other guys in our team that I just want to do a quick shout out to: Dan Glassel, Bob Pedroza, and Juan Castro, who are fantastic artists. They're part of our team, and we've got the first 2 issues of that out online right now. Still trying to get the first 3 and 4 out, and then try to get everything else done after that. I've actually written the scripts for 36 issues worth,
wow.
So I've got a lot of story in the can that we're just trying to do the artwork for. So yeah, so that's been my big thing over my whole life. So
that's awesome. So so everyone head over to runestonecomic.com and can you purchase the comics from there? I see you can download the issues.
Yes, you can actually buy the PDF version of issues 1 and 2 right now, and we're working on the other issues as well.
So everyone do that. Head over to runestonecomics.com and let's support Quinn and get those comics. There's a lot of us here on our team. We're comic fans, and so Marvel is it's something we really dig and enjoy. And is that, as a comic book fan yourself, is it cool that the second iteration of Disney Infinity is Marvel and comic focused?
I mean, it's pretty amazing to be able to really play with Iron Man and Captain America and Spider-Man, all these amazing characters. I mean, they're just amazing characters that everyone knows about, that have been around for a long time. And Marvel's successful because they tell really good stories and have really awesome characters, and so it's really, really pretty awesome to be able to play with their stuff every day.
Definitely. Well, sweet. All right. Well, we do have a couple things to go over real quick, and then we get to jump right into Quinn and hear about what he's doing. So I want to first mention our friends at DisneyInfinityFans.com, the #1 Infinity fans forum on the internet. It's a great community over there, great group. You can head over there to just have great conversations about Disney Infinity. You get tips and tricks, trading. There's it kind of runs the whole gamut. So head on over to our friends DisneyInfinityFans.com. And I mentioned them at the top of the show, but I wanted to bring it up again. So our friend of the show, Eviloss.com, he has a new figure that he's been working on, and each month he gives us a figure that we can actually give as a giveaway to listeners of the show and viewers of the show. So I want to spotlight his newest creation. So I guess at the launch he made a Groot, a Venom figure that was really cool, and his latest creation is this Hulk I'm going to bring up on screen now. That's really cool. So he's actually currently selling this bad boy, so if you're interested, head over to eviloss.com to check out that Hulk. I'd like to say hello to everyone in the chat room. Again, we record this show each and every Monday evening. Generally, today's Tuesday, but Monday evenings, DisneyInfinity.tv/live. You can go there, you can chat with us and have a good old time. We forbid people making fun of guests on the show unless they work for Avalanche. So I see you, Jose. I see Jose and Tyler in there, and Tyler says I like Quinn, so I guess that's okay. And Jose said that Tyler's biased, so you guys are okay, but everyone else, they can make fun of the rest of us. And like to say hello to all of you out there. Glad to have you back. I was telling these guys before the show, when we take some time off, it's a little bit kicking off the dust. So last week we took the week off because of Extra Life. We stayed up for 24 hours. Quinn, did you? I know the team was doing some stuff for Extra Life. Were you able to participate in that?
I just participated really in the. We went to Primary Children's Hospital here in Salt Lake City, and got to meet a couple of the kids there and a couple of the people that work there, and that was really, really cool to be able to do that. A group of us actually donated a bunch of consoles, as well as a ton of Disney Infinity stuff, games and figures and everything to the kids there. And so that was really, really cool to be able to just be a part of that. And then on the Saturday of Extra Life, we did a live stream for a couple hours that morning and played the game and answered questions and stuff like that. So that was fun. I didn't stay up for 24 hours. I'm not as as awesome as you guys, but it was cool to be able to take part in that.
That's awesome. It was really cool seeing Disney getting involved this year and really participating. So a buddy of mine actually works, shameless plug, he works for Children's Miracle Network, and he's running the data for the event and like kind of feeding the numbers and stuff. And he sends me a text, I don't know, maybe like 4 p.m. on Saturday, and it was highlighting Disney Infinity, or I guess it was Disney, I can't remember the exact team name, as one of the teams to kind of watch as far as the amount that they were raising for the fundraiser and stuff. So that was really cool to see. The official Disney team actually raised $16,408, which is just incredible.
Awesome. Yeah.
That was awesome. I mean, that was a huge number. So that was a number essentially that wasn't there last year because Disney didn't participate last year. So hopefully that trend continues because that's a big chunk of change.
Yeah. There's just awesome people that work there. That's one thing that's so nice about working there is you get to rub shoulders with these amazing people every day who are just good people, you know?
Yeah. That's great. I've heard stories about the studio itself and how it's I don't know if you've done game development before. I obviously haven't, but I hear that Avalanche is a studio that is a little bit outside the mold of the normal game developer, which is pretty cool, especially for you since you work there.
Yeah, well, I feel really privileged and lucky that I started my first I was a game tester for another studio very, very briefly for like a couple months, like 10 years ago. So other than that, this is my only real experience working for an actual video game publisher, and I feel spoiled because on my first shot, like you said, it's an incredibly friendly and collaborative environment where everyone is like, hey, we love your thoughts, we love your ideas. If there's an issue, let's tell us about it because we want to get it fixed because we're really passionate about making this the best it can be, and it's just a very, there's no clicks. There's no, I'm too busy for you. Like everyone's incredibly open and friendly and collaborative and very open to ideas. It's just really, really cool. It's like a family. We're all like a family together, which is super cool. So
that's great. And I assume that's got to just bleed through to the final product when you have that kind of passion and camaraderie with people.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Well, I did want to send out a few thanks to some supporters of ours. So we were a piece of that. We were able to raise $947.50. Can't forget that 50 cents. And I just want to run down the list, and I want to mention everyone who supported any member of the team. So that's, who the team is. I don't need to run through that, but I want to thank Roger from Violation Kingdom. He actually joined and played a little bit with us during the event, which is really cool. He played with Lloyd and I, so thanks, Roger. Thank you, Kenneth. Also awesome that you offered some donations to us, not outside of the normal donations. So I wanted to say thank you to you. Daniel, Mr. Dragon Skull. Literally, this guy stayed up. And I've actually played video games. It's kind of cool. We've become friends through this Extra Life Marathon. And I've played video games with him since then. And he was there for almost 24 hours. He did take a couple breaks, but he was there at 8 a.m. Mountain Time when we started. And he literally was there until 8 a.m. when we shut the stream off the following day. So that was that was commitment. Steven, team member, thank you. I want to say thanks to Model Train Man, Mr. Nick, for donating. We appreciate it. I'd like to thank my mom. I'm not too shameless. She donated to the cause too. So thank you, Mama. Want to thank Drew. Want to thank Yolanda, Grinning Ezra, longtime listener of the show. I'd like to thank Jared, Cindy, James, Rick, James again. I'd like to say thanks to Lauren Mighty Jidus, friend of the show, Toy Box artist. I'd like to thank Andy, Martha, Keith, Laura, Cheryl, and Mr. Brian Childs, the singer himself. So I want to thank you all for supporting us. It doesn't seem like much, but playing video games for 24 hours, I'm sure there's harder things in the world, but us old dudes, it takes a little bit longer to recover from that than it used to. So, when we were all kids, like staying up for 24 hours, that was like a a Friday night with your buddies, right? And now it's like, oh, but that means I gotta sleep all day on Sunday and then go to work on Monday. So I would still rather play video games. I was talking to someone at work, and I was like, yeah, I'm sorry I can't come into work on Saturday. And they're like, why not? I was like, I'm doing a marathon. I was like, oh, that's cool. And I was like, and it's playing video games. And they look at me funny. And I was like, hey, it's hard work. So thank you all. And I want to thank Dan, who's part of the team, who made a iron sculpture Hulk figure that we auctioned off on eBay, and so that was a big piece of that money. So thanks to you, Dan. Awesome. It has nothing to do with Extra Life, but Quinn, you probably know this. I want to give a big. We've kind of turned into a tradition of sending birthday wishes on the show, cool. And a little birdie told me that tomorrow is a very, very special young man's birthday, and I'd like to say happy birthday to Jose. Woo-hoo. So happy birthday, Jose. I'm sure that what is it, 45 now? Is that how old you are? No, just kidding. But no, Jose and Patrick actually joined us, and Lauren joined us in some of the gameplay session on Extra Life. So yeah, that was cool. But yeah, happy birthday, Jose. Do you guys have anything special planned for him in the office, Quinn, or are you gonna keep it a secret?
If we do, I'm unaware.
Not invited. Awkward.
I was totally expecting Tyler's jumping out of a cake or something like that.
Well, I can't talk about that.
Okay.
Things that are going to happen that I can't talk about.
I see. That was the caveat, right? All right, one last piece before we move on. So we've been discussing it for a while now. We have a Randall figure created by Evilos. And you know what? It's time to give that away. We've been teasing that a lot. And so I'm going to bring that custom Randall up on screen because it's really, really cool. And just want to announce the winner. So the winners are chosen at random. All you have to do at these events is just comment on our post. So here's that custom Randall figure.
Oh, cool.
And the winner of that is, I can't see it now because it's behind the screen. The winner of this figure is none other than, let's see here, Senior OG. So, Senior, drop us a line, info@disneyinfinity.tv, so we can get your information, or you can reach out to us on Twitter so we can get your shipping info and all that fun stuff. So, congrats to you. Everyone, be on the lookout for another Evilos that we will be giving away in the near future. All right, gentlemen, let's go through some news really quick. Again, this is the Quinn Hour, but this week has just been nuts. And I'm like, Quinn, you and I and Jason, we've been trying to set this up, this podcast up for a while now. And when we do these shows, we like to keep it pretty focused on the guest. But there's so much news coming out this week because of the Disney Originals stuff launching. And just want to give a rundown. I know you're a Disney fan, right? You got to be.
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay, so some of these characters and stuff are things you're pretty excited about.
Yeah.
I got to ask you, since we're on the subject of figures, we were talking when Tyler and Patrick were on the show. They were telling us this technique about characters that they held on to until after launch to play, so they could kind of have those be a surprise. Did you do that, or did you just kind of play with all figures during the development that you could get your hands on?
I was not as principled as they. I just played with everything that I could. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. That was actually one thing that was cool too. Is I was actually in the QA department for a few months before I joined the Toy Box community team. So it blew my mind. I was playing with all these amazing characters and stuff, and I was like, people's minds are going to be blown when these characters come out. So yeah.
They've all happily surprised us. I don't know. We've kind of come to expect high quality from these figures, and so far I haven't been disappointed at all.
Awesome.
So, all right. Well, let's just run through these news items. I'm not even going to really bring it up on screen. I'm just going to kind of go down the list. So, the Disney Originals launched today, actually. Disney Original Starter Pack, which also means the digital upgrade. The separate Avengers sets and figures were all released here in the States. Jason, I think in the UK it released a couple days ago. In Australia, did it release?
Tomorrow.
It's tomorrow. Okay.
The 6th of November. Yeah.
Okay. So
I believe.
Have you gotten your hands on them yet?
No, not a single Originals figure.
we gotta fix that.
Well, we'll see what happens tomorrow.
So yeah, that's really exciting. But so for those that have been waiting, this also includes a digital upgrade for 2.0. Some release date announcements also came out, and these came out literally like it seemed like day after day. So the Aladdin Toy Box Pack is coming out February 3rd for $30. That's including Jasmine and Aladdin, as the name suggests. So I should say the caveat. These are U.S. dates. The U.K., forgive me, these are the only dates that I currently have on hand. So U.K. and Australian is generally a couple days before or after. So just keep that in mind as I'm mentioning these dates. The individual Jasmine, no specific date yet, but we know it's coming February. So it's either going to be coming on February 3rd or probably a little bit after. Ronin, Yondu, and Green Goblin, they're coming out January 13th, so we finally get our villains on. I don't know, is Yondu considered a villain in this scenario?
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah?
Yeah, he's not one of the. I know he's not one of the villains, that they've been promoting as the villains. So
that's true. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting that they're throwing him in there. It looks like they want to save Loki and Falcon for a later date, and I would assume Loki's probably going to be one of the most popular villains, just because he's such an awesome character.
Yeah, he's way cool.
So, especially since it seems like they had the Tom Hiddleston version of him for Disney Infinity, which totally makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. I hadn't really thought about that, but yeah, that totally makes sense.
So next up, the Toy Box Game Disc will be available independently January 13th. So it looks like it's this phased rollout. We're getting some stuff now, and we're getting some of that. What's the word I'm looking for? Not piecemeal, but a la carte options now, gotcha. and then over time, and they're gonna keep bringing them out. Crystal Sorcerer Mickey's coming out December 5th. I know that's one that's exciting. Quinn, you don't have to mention this, but I will admit that I have one of these figures, and I'm pretty sure I put him down. I can't remember if I put him. No, I put him down in 2 and he worked. In 1.0 he didn't work. I was hoping he was going to be in 1.0. So I think he's in game now. I think I've seen people playing with him, and I know I played with him because I ranked him up. So that's exciting. Sorry, not trying to brag. I was just trying to say a story.
No, you did. There's not a single original or Crystal Mickey in Australia in this room right now.
Well, Jason, that's because you are blessed with that angelic voice. So you have to wait for everything else.
Fair enough.
Next up, we have, I mentioned it a few moments ago, Loki and Falcon coming out March 23rd, bringing it all the way to springtime as far as these releases go. Also in spring, not an official date, but the Vita starter is coming out in the spring. I want to say that month was March as well. And we've caught rumors, well, not really, it was said by the man himself, Mr. John Vignacchi, that the Vita starter is going to come with something special. So who knows what that is? Who knows if that's going to be a special figure, special, I don't know, unlock? Who knows? But yeah, so that's the rundown of the news. So we'll be. It doesn't look like the news is slowing down anytime soon. So we're just going to keep rattling it off as it comes along. With that, I think we hand it over to you, Quinn. So before we get into like the nitty gritty of kind of like your history, you went over some of that, but I got to ask. So one thing that we always ask on the show is we ask what people's favorite figures are, both in 1.0, 2.0, and then what their favorite playset is so far for 2.0. So
okay.
What are your favorite figures?
My favorite figures for 1.0 are probably, I'm going to say Mickey, because he's awesome, and I love Wreck-It Ralph. Those huge fists are just amazing. Agent P, I actually really enjoyed using him. So those are probably my top ones for Disney Infinity 1.0. I'm trying to think here if I'm missing anything. For 2.0, so far, I've Captain America, absolutely love using Captain America. Nick Fury, I really love him. He's been really awesome. His double guns are just killer, and no pun intended. And so that's really awesome. Iron Fist is just a monster. He just destroys people. And I'm trying to think. Who else there is? I have them right here. Yeah. So those are probably my top ones right off the top of my head. I mean, all the characters are like super, super fun to use, but those are probably my top ones.
So I love that you said Iron Fist, because for a lot of people, especially those that aren't really into comics too much, or the cartoons, because Iron Fist isn't, at least currently, part of the films, which is obviously a little more mainstream. Iron Fist was one of those characters that not that many people were there. It seemed to be one of the less popular characters before release, and I've heard pretty much across the board that everyone loves that character. That is the only Avengers character that I've yet to get. I'm really excited to get him, but I hear he's just a blast to play as, and he's powerful, and he's just fun all around. So it's cool hearing you kind of feel the same way.
Yeah, pretty much once you get going with his attacks, I mean, he just attacks so fast and just like, I mean, he's unstoppable, really. He just rips through waves of enemies with ease, and then he's got some super cool like specials too, where he like shoots like a big fire dragon at people and all that sort of stuff. So I mean, he has lots of really, really cool moves. So he's a lot of fun to use.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you're bringing up another point. So Nick Fury, obviously, he's kind of this ranged character with dual wielding, and then you have on the flip side of that coin, you have Iron Fist, who is a melee, but not like a brawler, more of a, I don't know, agile, fast fighting character. And one of the complaints a lot of people had, and we discussed a lot on this show for 1.0, was the lack of variety in character abilities. And God, they hit it out of the park with 2.0. Oh, yeah. It's like every character is unique and different and fun in their own right. And that adds a level of replayability, right? Because you may have gone through the story through a character, but you want a different experience. Throw a different character down, you're going to get that.
Yeah, exactly.
What was your favorite character during the development of 2.0? Did you have one? I
found that when I was just building levels and playtesting and stuff, probably Captain America. He was probably my favorite overall, because I love the character. I love that he's such a complete principled hero, and with he's unapologetically moral, and I love that. But he's also like in the game, he's just awesome. Like his fighting moves are just amazing. His shield. I mean, Avalanche put so much love and care into everything in this game, and like when he throws his shield, I mean, it's just the sound of the metal just swishing through the air, just clanging off people, and I mean, you just feel it. You're just like, oh yeah, justice, pow. So it's really, really cool. He's just really, really fun to play as, and so he's probably the one I use the most.
That's awesome. I love also when you charge that shield and you kind of get that vibrating sound that it's reminiscent of when Thor's hammer hits the shield.
Yeah.
That's what it reminds me of, those small details.
Yeah, and I love that, like when you power it up, you can like actually throw his shield and it'll bounce off guys. Just take out a whole crowd of guys before it comes back, and just little things like that are just super. And his big super move, is one of my favorites, because it just takes out a whole room of guys, and in some situations in some games where you're just totally overwhelmed, it just turns the tide immediately. So yeah, he's awesome.
Definitely. Well, I know Jason, you're a fan of the Cap figure.
Yeah, I pretty much exclusively use him unless I'm building. You've got to have a flying character if you're building, but I do like Cap. That shield's a little too good.
Yeah, the area of effect it has is awesome, and even Cap, even though he doesn't fly, if you're kind of in a smaller location, his super jump, it allows you to get around pretty quickly too.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. This is totally off the subject, but I can't stop staring at Jason, and it's not because of his beautiful looks, but half of this conversation, he has like an alien Mickey ears behind him, because he has like on top of his Donald hat. It's just cracking me up.
That's where I get all my ideas from, those antenna. Just filter right in.
It's right. It just comes to you out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So Quinn, what's your favorite playset you've gotten a chance to play so far? I'd
probably say Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, when we were playtesting it, it was interesting to see the different phases as new builds were released. You'd see the different phases as things got upgraded and upgraded and upgraded, and but Guardians just, I mean, it was just gorgeous. Like just the look of the world, and all the space, metal and corridors and everything. It was just absolutely beautiful. And I think the finished product, it just looks glorious. It just looks absolutely beautiful and polished. So the environment itself looks really, really cool. I also really liked how you had a good mix of melee combat with just stuff like the where you'd mount a turret and or shooting at spaceships and stuff like that. Like first person shooter.
Mm-hmm.
I just loved that. That was just really cool. Really, really, I love the variety and the gameplay on that. So that was really, really fun to do that. Plus the bad guys just look super cool. I think the Sakarans are just some of my favorite enemies to fight and use in the game because they just look so cool.
Yeah. Lots of variety, and I did love the environment, like you're saying. It's like so much going on.
Yeah.
It's just crazy.
Yeah, and there's just something cool about like throwing explosive pods at gigantic spaceships, and I absolutely love that. Oh, and I also love Cosmo. It's just there's something very special about getting missions from a telepathic Russian space dog. It just made it really, really fun. So it's cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think he was my favorite unlock from that playset. It like I literally, until I beat the game, I ignored all other mission givers that I could, just because every single time I'm like, I need something to do. I want to talk to the telepathic cosmonaut dog. So,
yeah,
cool. So you told us a little bit about getting your foot in the door at Avalanche. So how did Avalanche come about? Like what was it about them that kind of drew you to them, and how did you just kind of become a part of the team?
Well, so so like I mentioned, I've been a freelance comic book writer for the last several years, but that was I also had to have a full-time job the entire time to pay the bills and all that, and so I had various jobs over the years. And I had a job for the last couple of years that I had really enjoyed, but it ended up, that job ended up ending. Our branch actually was closing because of some merger type stuff. And the way I look at it, this is how I look at it, but I've found in my life that the Lord has a way of kicking me out of my comfort zone because he knows there's something better. Otherwise, I don't know if I would do it. And so losing your job is one of those things. And my brother Troy, who works at Avalanche, he's been there for a while, and he was like, hey man, we've always dreamed about working on video games together, and I'd love for you to, if there's an opportunity for you to join me here, then I want you to know about it. So he just clued me in on a couple openings, and this is one of them, and he said, hey, and Troy and we're like best friends, and so we know each other very, very well, and we're both really into video games and creativity and all that stuff, and so he totally gets me, and so he clued me in on the QA position, which he said, if anything, you can learn a lot of good things and meet some people, and maybe it'll lead to something else as well. And so I actually got the QA job, which was awesome. I absolutely loved that. Worked with some fantastic people, and then this other position opened up for this new team. It was like the timing was perfect. It's one of those things that it's no accident the way I look at it, and so I just interviewed for it, and I'd worked with the toy box a little bit. I honestly had I'm probably going to get a lot of heat for this, but I honestly had played Disney Infinity 1 very, very little at that point, so I kind of built in the toy box a little bit, but I was very intimidated, just because there was so much to know, and I was so just getting used to the game and everything, and but I've always loved, again, storytelling. I've always loved creation. I've always been a big fan of video games, and I've loved being able to build my own versions of these things. I don't know. Have you guys ever heard of the Time Splitters series on the PS2?
That was my first experience with in-home level building.
Yeah, and that's me as well. And I absolutely love those games, and so I had built a ton of levels in that. So I was glad that at least I had some idea of what it was all about. And anyway, so I said, I built a few things here and there in the toy box, and then I had all my writing background, so I was just crossing my fingers, and ended up interviewing for the job, and so I met with Chad. Chad Liddell is my really good friend and my supervisor, and he was the one doing the interviews and putting this team together. I mean, this is a brand new team. We'd never had anything like this before, and I just remember he sat down with me and we went over some things, and I showed him some stuff that I'd worked on, and then he said, "Well, we'd like you to go home and in the next week build a toy box in 1.0 that tells a story." So I was like, I have to learn all this stuff, all the ins and outs of this game. And again, because I was way behind most of you guys who are like experts at all this stuff. And then I had to also build a really amazing level, and I also had to tell a really good story with it. So it was a pretty stressful week for me, but I ended up doing the Neverland challenge, and so I did a level called Leaving Neverland, and the whole idea was that it kind of, as you play through this world, you start off in childhood, symbolically you start in childhood where there's just a bunch of playing and having fun, and then you gradually climb your way up these scary mountains as you grow up and go to college, and basically all the uncertainty and the fear, but the ultimate growth and rewards that come from growing up. And at the very end, and there's a part where like you fight your way through the corporate world where you're fighting guys and passing all these giant money bins, and all the pressures that loom over you when you're trying to make it in the corporate world. And then at the very end, when you get to the top, it was there was like the house from Up, and all these little, they were basically symbolically like kids popping up out of the friend generators, and that's kind of like what the whole journey was. Basically, it was all for. So I don't know if any of that came through when we actually played the level. I was like, man, I've been so spoiled working on 2.0 where there's text creators and all this stuff where you can kind of explain some of this stuff, but yeah, I mean, so I didn't know. I was like, I really hope that this went well. I hope that they liked it. And it ended up working out, and I got the job, and it was just like amazing. I mean, I pinch myself every day just thinking, oh my gosh, what did I do to deserve this amazing opportunity? And so that's basically how I got it. And I think because the community team also deals a lot with, we put together some videos, we were doing the tutorials, all this fun stuff with film and with writing and with basically being a public face, for a lot of the toy box stuff too. One of the things that I'm grateful that I had in my experience was doing our podcast. Like I mentioned, it's been a couple of years, but Robert Atkins and Troy and myself did a podcast for several years called the Dark on City podcast. That was all kind of rolled into the Elders of the Runestone project, and so I was grateful that I had that experience, kind of doing a podcast for a while. So I'm kind of a ham. I like talking in front of people, and I love writing and all that stuff. So I'm grateful that I had that kind of background too. I think that really helped with kind of what the purpose of the Toy Box community team is, and so yeah, so that's kind of how I ended up, and I think originally when we were assembling the team, we kind of were picked in large part because of our backgrounds and kind of what strengths we would bring to the table that would kind of, balance each other out. And so I was kind of brought in, my understanding is I was kind of brought in initially as the story guy, to kind of help make, really cool narratives. And now that we have all this storytelling capability with the new tools in the toy box. And, so I do that, but I'm grateful that I've also, the other guys have taught me a lot, and I'm learning all the time. So I've been able to make some levels that I'm really proud of as well. And it's just awesome. It's just awesome to work with Chad and everybody else on the team. They're just incredible guys, and it's just awesome to like hang out with some of your best friends every day, and do this stuff. So.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it sounds like it's a dream come true, which is It's great. It's so interesting. It does seem so serendipitous. Each one of your stories of how you kind of became a part of the team is so unique, but it just, my observation is it seems like everything just kind of fell into place. And, I got to witness a little bit of your interactions with the team when I was at the summit. And, it's not only professionally do you guys complement each other so well, but it appears, at least personally, you do too. And I think that's just kind of this organic event that, again, not to sound cheesy, but it shows in the final project, because you're not just doing this because you're told you have to do this.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's one thing that's so nice too. And I pinch myself because I know that there are positions that are very, that there are certain expectations you have to hit. These are the things we're trying to accomplish and all that. And we do have that obviously, but I feel like we are given a ton of freedom. For the most part, we're given a ton of freedom. It's pretty much like, hey, this would be a really cool thing. And then they're like, go for it, build this amazing level and do what you want. And then we have feedback and can refine it and make it better. But yeah, we're given a lot of freedom to kind of, the possibilities are infinite, as they say, and it's really cool. But yeah, and I do feel it was very, very serendipitous that everything fell into place at just the right time, because it's, the video game industry is notoriously difficult to get into, and I'm like, oh my gosh, how did I end up here? So yeah, I feel extremely blessed about the whole thing.
So I gotta tell you a story. So you said just a few moments ago that you've developed some toy boxes that you're extremely proud of.
Yeah.
The first toy box in 2.0, Jason, because he's from the future, got the game about a week before I did, and the very first toy box, he sends me a text and he's like, dude, he's like, you got to check out this toy box. He's like, this is what 2.0 is going to allow us to do. And it was your Nightcap. I don't know if I'm saying the name right, but Night Castle, is that?
Yeah.
So Jason, do you just want to say anything about that and why you texted me like the day of?
Yeah, it was. I just remember this. It's all about that. It was the final cutscene thing, sort of that ending animation.
Yeah.
It's just like, that was like, for me, the realization that obviously I mentally knew that we were going to be able to achieve that kind of thing, but it was like the death of the party cannon. That's what it was. It was the death of the fireworks cannon. It's like, thank God we don't need to deal with that anymore. We actually can have a final cutscene in these toy boxes. And I was always a big promoter that the minute text was introduced really meant story, or at least story that didn't have to be interpreted. It's like some, weird painting, so to speak. But like, to be able to actually communicate with the people that were playing those toy boxes. And yeah, I just remember that moment going, that's super cool. It was super basic from memory. Well, it just said you won. I can't remember what the exact thing was, but still it communicated a message, and that was extremely exciting. So it really inspired me to get back into the toy box, because as most people know, my time in the toy box pretty much died after my abysmal failure at the Neverland Raceway in 1.0, and I ran out of time, but I've restarted working in the toy box now. So yeah, very, very good toy box for sure.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, well, it's that was like one that I was like, okay, because I've always been a huge gamer, and I've loved the old school platformers. That's actually one reason why Captain America is one of my favorite characters, because he can't fly, And I think the flying characters are cool, but I love the challenge of platforming. I love action platforming games, and so this was like my chance to finally make my own, and I mean, just the tools, like you said, just all the vast amount of amazing tools that are in the new toy box just blow my mind, and so it was really awesome to be able to do everything I ever wanted to do in a game like this, and so yeah, I love like that you can do the sky changer. I love that, like, the sky changer, you can say, okay, I want it to be this specific sky at this specific time. I mean, there's just tons you can do with that, with storytelling, and so I'm glad you liked that final cutscene. And that was like my homage to classic video games of yore. The thank you very much for playing, try on hard mode, and all this other stuff. I'm just really happy with the way it came out. It was a lot of fun to do.
Well, have you got any tips for us hacks then? Like, what would you say the best way, or what are some really good ways, or some unconventional ways that you think you can tell story in the toy box?
Well, one thing that this is one thing, and it's cool because like I still feel like I'm learning like all the time. Like every day we're like, oh my gosh, have you ever tried doing this? And we're like, that's so cool. But one thing we've been doing a lot is when you have conversations between two characters, like with yourself and a townsperson, to use the cameras, like the target camera. We use it all the time, And one thing we've been doing is you'll have like you kind of like guesstimate where the player character will probably be at the moment of the cutscene, and then say like they enter like a trigger area around the townsperson and say, okay, when I hit this trigger area, I want the camera to hit, either one, whoever's talking, I want the camera to switch to this guy, and then you can have like a dialogue box pop up, and then you say, okay, when that dialogue box is done, then it's going to switch the camera to the other guy and then pop up his dialogue. So you can kind of go back and forth, and you can kind of experiment with that. You can move the cameras around to try to get a good angle. But just having like those, because there's one thing that was so frustrating for us is that, we'd be playtesting each other's levels, and then we came up with this really amazing story, and oh my gosh, the plot's going to be amazing, da da da. And then like it pops up and the person doesn't even like pay attention to anything, and they're still like running around and jumping on stuff, and they have no idea what's going on. You're like, my carefully crafted, magnum opus, and so there's certain things you can kind of do that kind of clue the person in, like, hey, especially if you're doing camera, like the camera's cutting back and forth, the person's like, oh, okay, and just subconsciously they're like, okay, hands off, I just need to see what's going on here, and not just keep running around. So that's a big thing. That's a big thing for the storytelling, is using the cameras to kind of direct your attention to what they need to be paying attention to, and then have dialogue that pops up. We like using I like using the proposal text a lot, because the player actually has to physically hit a button to make that text go away. So instead of something just flashing up on the screen that's just really super easy to ignore and then just goes away on its own, I really like having that kind of control. You kind of force your control over the player and say, hey, pay attention to this, and you can't move until you go through this, And even if they don't read it, at least they know that something's going on that they need to give attention to. And so that's a big thing that we've been doing. One thing that's really cool too is we discovered recently that and again, like I said, we're learning all the time, all the nuances, but you can actually put the target camera inside terrain. So like if you want to get a shot from below up at a guy, you can actually, it has no collisions. You can stick it inside terrain and put it kind of wherever you want. So you can actually put two target cameras inside each other. So you have to be careful you don't totally lose yourself. But it's cool that they've really given you that much freedom to do that.
That's awesome. That's very awesome. Oh, just a query: do you have to you subject to the same text checks that everyone else is? Like, do you have to run your dialogue through the text check? I can't even think what it's called. What's it called?
Oh, the clean speak.
Yeah, clean speak.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Are you subject to that?
Oh, yes. Well, I think everything that goes in there, you have. I mean, it's just built in. It's just built in, and it's actually really funny because we have a running list of words that get blocked. And we're like, if we could possibly get this through. And I think a lot of the stuff that gets blocked is stuff that's like not really meant to be blocked. It's just the system like matches certain things and says, oh, this kind of reminds my computer brain of something else that's completely unrelated. And so there's lots of words that we just say, hey, can we get this clear? And they're like, oh yeah, and they clear it. So that's
cool.
So yeah, but we definitely like it's vastly better than it was a couple of months ago before the game came out. We were just finding this ridiculously huge list of words that were being blocked and really getting in the way of just telling a basic story. But yeah, we have to go through all that. We have to go through all that and make sure everything's working. There's been a few parts where we actually have changed words because of that. But it's like, hey, the purpose is there to keep the game safe for everybody and all audiences and that kind of a thing, which I really appreciate. So, but we have lots of laughs in the office about stuff that gets blocked, and we're like, oh, well, good to know,
Tyler and Jose are saying you can't say Tomorrowland, Tinkerbell, or Merida.
We're like, I don't know if this is intentional.
Right?
There's just weird stuff in there. So it's just, I mean, again, it's just like random stuff that was probably never intended to really be blocked, but the computer finds something weird in it. And yeah. But luckily they have ways to get around that. So
that's cool. And that's good to know that's a new piece of info that will probably be improving over time, then it sounds like.
Yeah, it just kind of evolves, and which is nice. It's basically, I hope I'm not giving too much information away. I don't know if that's why this would matter to anybody, but it's the clean speak is actually it's not built into the game itself. It's kind of like linked to online stuff. So that's something that even after the game is out, that can be continually updated. So
Yeah, we did know that. I'm curious. I've yet to try it out without an internet connection. Like if you were just doing it locally, I doubt that would work.
I
But
think
It doesn't
I think
work.
it says
Nope, it
yeah, you have to be
automatically.
online to actually do text.
oh
Yeah.
wow, oh
It
that's
just
right.
blocks
Okay.
you. It says you can't put any text in unless you're hooked up online. So, but once it's in there, once it's saved, then you don't need to be online anymore. But to actually enter in the text for the first time, you do need to be online for it.
That's cool.
So
So each one of the team members, and I know you guys are learning from each other each and every day, but you kind of each have your own strengths, right? And it's my understanding, and much of this discussion is you're the story guy, and that's kind of
Yeah.
one big piece that you bring to the team.
well, I mean, there's various. I don't know. Do you want me to just talk about some of the aspects of that, or I mean,
Please, yeah, I'd love to hear kind of like what you do on the team and your role.
well, so one of the things that we do is I mean, everybody kind of has their levels that they're working on, and that's kind of their baby, so to speak. And they say, this is kind of what I want to do. And then I just actually sit down with them, or we even sit down as a group and just toss ideas back and forth. And then, and then I'm usually like, so, well, how about this? How about this? And sometimes, I mean, a lot of times they already have the whole thing pretty well thought out and what do I want to do. And then I just kind of help refine that because I'm a stickler for spelling and grammar. And so I kind of like have my eye for that. And, but sometimes I come up with the basic plot, and then we look at the gameplay and we say, okay, this is what happens in the game. These are the tasks that you do and the different things that you do throughout the adventure, and how can we wrap a cool story around what's going on in the gameplay. So we kind of like tailor this story to the gameplay, which I really love, and so that's really really fun. And then when we have dialogue with characters, then I go through it with them and we say, what do you think about this? And I say, what do you think if he said this and this? And, I think this would really reflect his character, or this would be kind of cool to suggest this cool plot development, or kind of like plant a seed of, oh, what's this all about, in someone's mind until the full plot gets revealed. And so all sorts of stuff like that. So we usually just sit down together, we go through all the dialogue together, and then I put in my 2 cents here and there, and make sure everything, and at least from my perspective, everything looks good, and we just put it in, and then we hope that CleanSpeak doesn't block anything.
Is there ever a scenario where it's like, so say Dr. Logic, say Jose has something in place, a toy box in place, does he ever come to you and say like, hey Quinn, I need a story that matches this environment, or vice versa? Do you ever have like a story and be like, hey Patrick, can you make me a toy box that will go with this story, or is it kind of like just a constant back and forth?
It's pretty much a constant back and forth. Typically what usually happens is the other guys will come to me and say, hey, do you mind putting in your 2 cents worth with what I've got here, and let me know if there's anything you might suggest, and we just go through it that way. And sometimes there have been some times where they're like, hey, I built this level, let's come up with a story together. And so we work on a story together and try to come up with a story that kind of pulls the whole thing together. Mm-hmm. So we do that. And then we also like look for continuity. Like if there's several levels that kind of are related to each other, we make sure that everything works properly back and forth and meshes and all that stuff. One thing that we do too, this is what we all do together, we actually play through each other's levels and make a list of things we liked, and then recommendations on, hey, have you tried this, or what about this, or I don't think this works. And so one thing I do too, as part of that, is I suggest, hey, maybe on this part it would help to move the flow of it along. And we all do this for each other's levels. Mm-hmm. I mean, they've done this with my levels as well. And just say, maybe if a message pops up that says da-da-da, that kind of like suggests this is what you're supposed to do, just so the person doesn't get totally lost as to what they're supposed to do. And so it's kind of a process. It's really, really fun because we all work really, really well off each other. So
that's cool. Because the actual written content, that's only part of the process, right? But then you have to actually display and convey the story outside of that.
Yep. So. Yeah, it's kind of like, really it's like comic books where you have the pictures and you have the words, and really one should not completely overpower the other. They should work together in a way that they can, tell a really good story, complement each other. So yeah. Cool. Did you guys, I just thought of this, but did you guys play the Choice Quest toy box?
Was that the Choose Your Own Adventure?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was gonna mention that earlier. You talk about like the classic gamings that kind of displays
Yeah.
your pedigree there.
That one was fun. That one was
It's
fun because I got to just go crazy with like ridiculous story elements, and because there was, I mean, really, as far that was like totally text heavy. That wasn't like
right.
there wasn't any gameplay besides the text, but that was fun to just come up with this ridiculously huge story that got totally out of hand. And if you looked at like if you could see like the field of text creator toys that all had to connect, everyone was just like, oh my gosh, like how do you keep this straight? And I'm like, I don't know if I can keep it straight,
Right.
but yeah, that was a really fun one to work on, and just to really emphasize the whole story element of the whole thing and everything that I grew up with loving out of the choose your quest
Hmm.
type levels or games and stuff like that. So
Yeah, that the first time I saw that, I remember seeing that on the summit, and they also broadcasted it via the Twitch stream, and
oh
it
yeah,
was it was so interesting to me because you have this game of infinite possibilities that like literally you can build whatever world you want, and you can like make it as intricate and detailed and robust as you want, and
yeah.
you come out with this gameplay that uses none of that. It's like all like that classic, using your imagination, but
Yeah,
not to discount how complicated it is. Like you said, the field of
sure.
text creators, but just like how freaking cool is that? And like just seeing those unique ways of using this game to create games or create, story in this situation is just so awesome to me.
Uh, Well, that's just one thing about the toy box that just blows my mind. I mean, really, and this is just one thing about that I've just discovered like every day working on this thing is you really any type of game you can imagine, you could pretty much do it. I mean, they've just given you so many tools that can be used in so many different ways that really you can I mean, again, the possibilities are infinite. It's said like all the time, but it really is true. I mean, like any kind of game you can think of, you can create, and it's just mind blowing. So people should definitely like. I love it when people like, because you have your basic like, fight a bunch of guys or jump up a hill or race each other, which is great. Those are all fun, but just the sheer variety of gameplay you can create, and I love it when people like um, are experimental and just really take things in a completely new direction that no one's ever seen in the toy box before. So
So
yeah,
what you're saying is think outside the box, huh?
yeah, yeah. I mean, really the possibilities are all there, and it's just a matter of someone really creative saying, "Hey, I'm going to do something totally different that no one's ever seen before," and you know, and you can do it. So it's super super cool.
Well, unfortunately, we gotta kind of start wrapping things up here. But before do have one last question for you. Not to put you on the spot. Not
Yeah.
You don't have to go into any detail. But are there some toy boxes that might be coming down the pike that we can look forward to your storytelling being a part of that?
Yes.
Okay, awesome.
Yes, there are. I don't know if I can go into any further detail until stuff starts getting announced, but yeah, there's lots of stuff coming. I mean, just stuff that we've all been working on together that's just like amazing. I just play these guys' levels and it just blows my mind. I'm just like, these are, I mean, I seriously like, I work on like Stuart stuff and Patrick stuff and Tyler and Jose stuff, and I'm just like, these levels are blowing my mind and they're so awesome. So I'm just excited. I think everyone's going to really, really like these levels that we've all been working really hard on. So yeah, lots of really good stuff coming, lots of really good story driven stuff coming. And I think lots of cool stuff is coming that people are going to love.
It's great. I love, so last gen we had or 1.0 we had these community toy boxes that we were able to look forward to each week, and the commitment that Avalanche has made and Disney Interactive has made with the community design team to kind of give us more content. Like Jason and I, we had countless conversations last year where it's like we just got to keep the momentum going, and these community toy boxes are amazing, but you can tell as a player sometimes it was frustrating, like I know there's more in this, if only it was possible for them, and they're doing the best they can, and now it's so much more robust, and so we just are going to
Yeah.
have so much content that we're just gonna, I'm sure it's gonna blow us away and just keep us entertained, and
Yeah.
until whatever the next version of Infinity is. So
Yeah. Well, and that's one thing I think is what's another thing that's so awesome about Disney Infinity in particular is because, typically you get a new game you play it for a while and you're like, that was really fun, and then you kind of and then it sits on your shelf and gathers dust. Where I love the whole thing where people can, there's always going to be new content, always going to be new content coming from us, from from the community, and I mean, this game will just never get old. It's just always going to be new stuff that's amazing. So.
Well, you're a gamer. Jason's a gamer. This is a game that like you can literally play it from one day to the next, and the next day's gaming experience is going to be completely different than the previous games.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Oh man, well, Quinn, we could talk to you all night, but I do want to be respectful of your time. This was great. I don't know, Jason. Do you have any things that's just you want to ask Quinn before kind of end things and let
well, maybe maybe just quickly, is there actually a game plan for the community for your toy boxes that are being created? Is the idea you're just going to release those sort of willy-nilly, or is it like designed to come alongside announcements, or is there actually a planned schedule for release? How's that all working?
There is. It's what that planned schedule is sometimes changes, but typically we do the best we can to release a new level every week. So so far you've seen that where we've had a new level come out every week since the game's launch, and yeah, we're working really hard to make sure that happens. So yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, and plus, I mean, and on top of that, obviously you've got the Toy Box Challenge team. Who they create levels that go along with the Toy Box TV Challenge of the week, and they are creating stuff every week too, and which are amazing. They've done some awesome stuff, and then yeah, there's lots of stuff that people can go crazy on.
Will you guys ever do some of those? Like I keep waiting for that Toy Box TV where we get to hear one of your guys' voices via voiceover, or is that completely separate?
No, well, it's kind of completely separate. Like we do the Toy Box 2.0 Edge segments now, so we're in charge of those where we highlight some of the cool stuff in the toy box, and then and we actually do have something coming down the pipeline very soon on Toy Box TV that'll highlight some of the levels we've been working on in the community team specifically. So yeah, wait, did that answer your question? Or did I just totally go off on a tangent?
Nope, totally. I think you even enhanced Jason's answer a little bit, so that was perfect.
Okay, good. Yeah, so lots of cool stuff coming for sure.
Awesome. Well, yeah. Before I let you go, Quinn, I did want to mention that I forgot to mention this at the top of the show. We've been getting lots of community mail, lots of community questions. We haven't forgotten about all of those. We've just been kind of banking them, and we're gonna bring them all out next week and answer all those questions and comments. So especially for you, Jason, there's a really funny email that I can't wait to share with everyone. And so keep sending those in. You can send them in info@disneyinfinity.tv. And yeah, so Quinn, I can't thank you enough. This was a lot of fun. So
yeah,
consider yourself a friend of the show, and you are welcome to come back anytime you want. So
thank you. I've had a blast. You guys are super awesome, and I feel very humbled that I could be on your show. So thank you. I've had an awesome time.
Good. I'm glad. And again, everyone, make sure you check out runestonecomic.com for your comic, and again, everyone should go out there and support you and download that. You have another personal site. Do you just want to go ahead and mention that?
Well, yeah. So the runestonecomic.com is the official website for Elders of the Runestone that I'm working on, and with Robert Atkins, and then my personal website just has a bunch of artwork and writing samples and stuff, is MrWonderfulProductions.com. So they can just go there, and it just has a bunch of just stuff for people to check out. So
awesome.
There you go.
MrWonderfulProductions.com.
Yep, you got
it. Great. Please do us a favor and say hello and what's up to all the guys and to Chad for us.
Yeah, you bet. I will.
So we're going to try to get the rest of the team members, Stuart and Jose on as well. So hopefully they'll be coming at some point. I mentioned that to Jose, and he's like, "What?" I was like, "Oh yes, it's going to happen." So one more thing before I let you go, Quinn. I do want to, Jason, thanks as always, for joining the show. I know you're like a story guy, so I could just see you biting your tongue over there, and hopefully we got your answers too.
Yeah, and if anybody ever wants to send me anything, any inquiries, they can totally do that as well. So, but yeah,
cool.
That's
yes,
good. Cool.
Yeah. So you're like the one-stop shop for all things story.
I can try. I'll do the best I can.
All right. Well, again, thank you, Quinn. But before I let you go, the chat room is demanding one last pun before you go. And I think you probably know who those requests are really coming from.
Okay, let me think. So usually my puns work well if there's like something that we're talking about that like I can spin a pun off of. So what did you have for lunch today? Let's just try that.
What I have for lunch today, I had a turkey sandwich and an apple.
Did you gobble it down? Horrible. I know.
Oh no, that was amazing. How that was so quick. All right, you got to do one for Jason now.
Okay.
What? What do I have for lunch?
No. Do something else. So what's another question?
Let me think.
Yeah, give me a question. I'll answer it.
Okay. What is... Gosh, okay. This is like hard off the top of my head. Who's your favorite movie actor? Let's try that. Hopefully this won't bomb terribly.
Christian Bale.
Christian Bale.
Yeah.
So, we came with a really good one of him. Like, let me think. Okay.
5 more seconds or you lose your job.
No. Would you say that he rings your bail? I don't know. That was horrible. That was terrible.
No, I'll give that a pass. That's good enough for me.
Yeah. Sorry, that wasn't one of my best.
That's amazing.
This is really tough to do it like in front of a big audience. That was top of my head.
Well, you know who to thank for that. So,
well, okay, I'll just give you an example. We were like, so we all went to our team and our significant others went to a corn maze a couple of weeks ago, and it was like nonstop corn punnery. Like we were like Tyler, someone's like, "Oh, it's just around this corner, and let's just hop in for a bit." And then like Patrick's like, "Okay, just kettle down, everyone." And we were just like, it just went on and on and on and on, and it was the best night ever.
Do you guys just sit around the water cooler and come up with? You just have conversations and puns?
Oh, we do. We go on and on and on. It's we actually had a huge email conversation back and forth about camera puns for like 20 minutes, and they're like, snap to it, and these puns developed really well, and we just went on, and it was awesome. So
Jose keeps asking me to ask you about your mac and peas.
So I have pretty much for lunch every single day, I have macaroni and cheese mixed with tuna and peas. And it's like a mini casserole, and everyone gives me the worst time about it every day. And I'm like, you know what? It's delicious. It's cheap. It's quick and easy to make. So get off my back. And yeah, so they always tease me about that. So actually, Tyler and Patrick went to Disneyland a couple weeks ago, and they got souvenirs for everybody. And for me, they got Mickey-roni and cheese. So it was the official Disneyland macaroni and cheese shaped like Mickey faces, and I ate it the next day. So
that's amazing. That's amazing.
So it's a good time.
So the lesson learned here is stay tuned for the after show, where it will be another hour of puns.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Quinn! Again, thank you. This was just a blast.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to come back on,
guys. I had a ton of fun.
Awesome. Well, thanks again to everyone out there. Hope you enjoyed this show. We enjoyed bringing it to you, and who knows, maybe Quinn's podcasting career can start back up again, because I know I'd listen to it. So you can check us out each and every week, DisneyInfinity.tv, and head on over to our YouTube channel and subscribe if you like what we do, youtube.com/DisneyInfinityTV. And with that, I can't even do my normal outro, Quinn, because I feel like I should make it a pun, and I'm just not that punny. So
Don't put that pressure on yourself. It's a terrible burden.
it is. So with that, everyone, I hope your week is filled with infinite possibilities, and we'll see you next week.
Cool.